Hey everybody, hello. It's been about 6.5 to 7 months since my last video. For those of you who did check out some of my videos before I went on my hiatus, you might be wondering where I was. I had a catastrophic computer failure, have not simmed in a long time, and only until about a month and a half ago did I actually get around to reinstalling everything. That tedious adventure of finding all my downloads. I mean, they tend to be centralized in a couple different downloaders, but you know, you have those one-offs that just really take up a lot of time. All the sim updates, everything, you know, it was kind of it put a damper on my momentum, and I just really didn't feel like going forward for a little bit at least. But I got the itch again, of course, and I'm kind of back in the swing of things, enjoying some new aircraft, one of which you see behind me, or behind my voice on this video, which is the Horizons mod for the Latin VFR A321neo. I quite enjoy this. It makes for a nice change of pace from the Phoenix, which I would say is my most flown aircraft. But that's not here nor there. Just, you know, that's what's behind me on the video, so I won't be commenting on the video specifically. I'll speak more on a broader topic. Something that kind of got me you know, my first little bit of steam on my channel last year on the holidays. So in the run-up to the new holiday season, to next Christmas, I wanted to talk a little bit about the community and what some new people might expect by, you know, the casual observations of the flight sim community at the present. Since we last had since my last video, some things have happened. I've made some observations. You know, I wasn't flying, but I did keep an eye on the news and what was coming out. And I've seen an uptick in the usuals of people frustrated with delays, whether it's the version 2 of the Phoenix or whether it's the Bluebird 757. And, you know, I just thought, as one of the self-proclaimed elders of this hobby, having started simming when I was roughly 6 years old, so coming up on 35 years, a little less than, I'm not quite 40 yet. But I did want to give some commentary and maybe provide a little advice similar to what I did last time, which seemed to be well liked and well received. Before I do that, thanks again to those of you who enjoyed the videos and liked and commented and subscribed back then. I know it's only 85 subscribers or so, but for a guy like me who's just doing this for fun as a part of my hobby, I appreciate numbers even like that, you know. I just hope I could keep the momentum. Family life is a little tough. I have 2 young girls, 2 young kids, and you know, I have responsibilities. I can't be simming all the time and making videos, but I do this in my spare time to pass the time, have some enjoyment in my downtime at night, my peaceful hours, and I hope some of you appreciate it out there. For those of you that do and have stuck around, thanks. Anyway, on to what I wanted to speak about. So, you know, a couple of observations I've had about the flight sim community in the last couple of years at least. This started mostly on Reddit and then kind of spilled over into the websites that comment on news and post stories, or even on YouTube to a certain extent. A point I made in one of the last videos was that, you know, it's way past the point where people need to realize in this hobby that you aren't owed things up front. You aren't owed anything just for being there, right? And this hobby is a little different in that a lot of the developers come from the hobby itself, right? So you're talking about people who, before they put their talents to work to make these things for us, these third-party add-ons that we purchase, or some of the new ones that are even free, before they were doing that, they were one of us, right? So they understand, you know, the want and the desire of the community to get things. But when you're on the other end of development, and I'm not a developer, I never have been, but I do art sometimes, I paint, you know, you don't want to be rushed in it. You have a level of expectation that you set for yourself that is not driven by profit alone. You want to put out something good, right? So when you have examples of companies like Phoenix, for example, announcing a 1-month delay on something like the version 2 of Phoenix, which is a very intricate aircraft, a very beautiful aircraft, something we've probably all gotten our money's worth 10 times over by now, you know, that shouldn't be met with disdain or scorn. That should be met with appreciation for the transparency. Other examples, PMDG ZFB, which is, you know, long time delayed. And some people have taken the explanations for that with skepticism. And to some of that, you know, I say fair enough, I get it. People really want that. But keep in mind that PMDG is a bedrock cornerstone of the community, creating, you know, top 1 or 2 tier, not 1 or 2 tier, but definitely top tier aircraft, top 1 or 2 developers of all time, creating these high fidelity add-ons for you and I to have for what I consider a pretty reasonable price given how much we use them. They've been doing this for basically the last 20 years, right? They have standards too. They have teams that need to work on these things. They need to test and test and test. And something that people don't seem to keep in mind when it comes to PMDG is they have partnerships with, well, at least Boeing, right? So they do have standards they have to reach and meet as part of that partnership. And that's just an assumption on my part. But Boeing's not going to put their name behind a company. They're not going to bless off on what PMDG is doing in a way that would sully their name, right? Now, you might say, well, Boeing, multi-billion-dollar company, isn't going to be sullied by the actions of a flight sim developer, right? But it really does, you know, that is something that companies are attentive to. Even the slightest little ripple in a company's reputation can have lasting effects, right? So, yeah, we're frustrated. We want to see things from PMDG now. We want to see the EFB. We want to see the 777. You know, they tend to take a little longer. Not as long as Aerosoft, I suspect, you know, or at least I would imagine. I don't have a side-by-side comparison, but I feel like we wait a little longer for Aerosoft stuff, and that brings about its own criticisms. And then as you get down the rung of like the tiers of developers, people have less and less patience. Maybe some of the community handling that PMDG has done on their forums. I was never a participant in their forums. I just never really got involved in that. Maybe some of that has led people to believe or act as if PMDG owes them something. But, you know, in spite of anything that the forum mods did to the community or said to the community or the way they were treated, yeah, none of that justifies or none of that eradicates or erases what PMDG has brought to us, right? No one has done it really like them. And I'm not some show, right? I'm not paid by anybody. I buy these things out of my pocket like anybody else. And that's just the way it is. But sometimes you got to take a step back. I understand that youth plays a part in it. Community-driven hysterics of like YouTube and Reddit. There's a lot of groupthink involved. Take a step back, remove yourself from the groupthink, and consider what's happening behind the scenes at these companies. On top of that, I would highly suggest that you take a second to take a look back at what things were like in the FSX days, maybe early P3D days, but anything FSX and older. And consider that what you have now is so exponentially greater, not just in the paid space, but in the free space, that, you know, you really can't help yourself but be thankful for what you got. With very rare exceptions, I don't know of a company who's just a straight up farce. And I mean, I say that as, you know, what I mean is I've never purchased from somebody who I felt totally screwed by. There have been some borderline ones, but they're still valid products. And if you go snooping around SimMarket and stuff, you might find a couple more of those, mostly in the sceneries genre, but things that are just clearly not up to par, stuff that isn't even close to the freeware available, you know, online on flightsim.to or whatever. You know, just you'll learn to avoid those. They're not even in this conversation. Generally speaking, we have a verbose and plentiful payware market that is backed up by a very sturdy and alive freeware market, and that should leave us very hopeful for what comes next. Since I've been gone, there's been the announcement of Flight Sim 24. I haven't even really thought about it. I don't even want to hear about it. The first thing I thought of was, oh my god, now I gotta wait for updates and everything. But luckily, it seems as though we'll have a lot of backwards compatibility, so I'll wait till later to comment on that. But in the meantime, I did want to speak a little bit about the emotions that are behind some of the criticism. They're not worth, you know, they're not worth allowing them to dissuade you from trying new things. When you see an aircraft that you've maybe seen like so-so reviews for, you see it on sale, give it a shot. Generally speaking, if it's got so-so reviews, it's because the developer just isn't there yet. They need the feedback. They'll improve with the feedback, and you invest a couple of bucks in something, take a flyer on it, no pun intended. Take a flyer on it, and you know, become a part of that community that you're claiming to support and want to be a part of. Help developers out. Like I said, they're pretty much all just like you and me. They, like you and me, they probably stare at airplanes as they take off. I live near Dulles Airport, which I've spoken about in previous videos. I watch them as I drive to work. I work very, very close to the airport, and I watch them during my lunch breaks. You know, we're all aviation geeks, right? Let that guide you in your passion here. Don't let anger guide you in your passion for the sim, for the hobby. And as we come to Christmas, where you might be starting to find yourself having a couple bucks to splash around, you know, be wise in that endeavor, but take it in stride and see what you like, and experiment a little bit. Before my computer crashed, I started messing around a little bit more with like general aviation stuff, which is an area of the flight sim that I never really got involved in. I never really tried my hand at like more manual VFR flying, and when I did that, it just completely changed the game for me. It really opened my eyes to all the other stuff. Now I've bought a bunch of things. I bought the Comanche. I'll probably buy the new TBM. I'm having a blast with it. So if you find something a little stale, if what you see on the horizon in your favorite flight sim genre is getting you down a little bit, get out of your comfort zone, try something new. Buy a bush plane, buy a business jet, buy some scenery in a place that you've never flown before. Do anything to spice it up. You have the whole world, literally the whole virtual world at your fingertips. You have tons of planes out there that, you know, and that's only growing by the day, of varying quality, sure, but you could make the sim something regardless. I like to post the video that I have now up on the screen to show that, you know, here's this Latin VFR A321 that was met with some criticism upon release. I love Latin VFR sceneries. I was a little skeptical about their planes. I stayed away until I saw that the almighty freeware guys out there, the community, got together and started implementing fly-by-wire stuff into them. And lo and behold, we have viable aircraft to use that are not just the 320 by Phoenix or the 320 Neo by fly-by-wire. We have a larger range, and we have something that we could really enjoy. I had a great time taking this flight behind me from Gothenburg to Copenhagen. Couldn't have been in the air more than 15 minutes. I think my cruise was 15,000 feet, and I cruised for about 7 minutes. And, you know, I had a blast doing it. In my situation, right now, what I have time for is little flights like this at night. I pop them out, I make a recording, I make a video, and that keeps things fresh for me. That keeps things from being stale. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're angry about the world, you shouldn't be. Flight sim shouldn't be taken that seriously, but try something different. Instead of throwing a plane up in the air and taking it to 40,000 feet in a 10-hour flight, get in a bush plane and fly around Alaska. Get in a bush plane and fly around something in the Middle East or Southeast Asia. Just do something cool, do something different, try a new plane. You know, try the free ones. There's tons of good free stuff out there too. I really hope to continue some of these videos, you know, not like an everyday thing, but definitely not something that I take 7 months off in between. My computer is good now. Everything is fresh and new, and my stuff is running strong. I had a pretty serious RAM issue that just basically fried a couple things, and you know, I had to get that fixed. It didn't cost me too much money, but it took some time. And like I said, sometimes you stare at a blank computer with about 1 billion gigs of stuff you have to install, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna go play something else for a while. So in the meantime, I was playing a lot of Hearthstone and a lot of Rust, and a little bit of Escape from Tarkov, my other joys. But you know, flight sim is one of those things you always come back to. Likewise, making videos on my little flight sim SimDaddy channel is something I'm hoping to come back to too. So once again, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for hearing me out. I look forward to future communication with you guys, chatting, commenting, and stay tuned for more videos. Appreciate it. Have a good one.